insights, picks, results. This is Wizard Sports Picks. Beyond the Lines.
Welcome to another edition of Beyond the Lines, presented by Wizard Sports Picks for Friday, April 3rd. I'm Ian Cameron. Great to be back with you. And in this edition of the show, we will look ahead to Friday, and we'll give you an NBA preview, and we will give you another UFL preview. We've got another Friday night United Football League game for Week 2. We went 2-0 on Beyond the Lines last week with UFL picks, UFL sides, I should say. We actually split. We went 1-1 with the Louisville Birmingham game, the opener. We cashed with Louisville. We lost with the over, but we did cash with Orlando on Sunday in their win against Columbus. We'll give you a preview of Friday night football in the UFL, DC and Columbus to kick off Week 2. That'll be coming up in just a moment. Let's first remind you, though, of course, of the great handicappers at wizardsportspicks.com. Daily premium picks available, long-term subscriptions as well, 3-day, 7-day, 30-day, and 1 year all sports subscription passes available with any of the great handicappers. It's been a great run for me on the website from day one. Close to 30 units of profit in all sports from day one on the website. Very proud of those achievements, as well as being number one this past season in the NFL and currently number one on the website in both NHL and college basketball. Also having a very profitable NBA season. We got Major League Baseball going on as well. So check it out, wizardsportspicks.com, and enter your email address on the homepage to get free picks sent to your inbox every day. All right, let's get into Friday and a couple of games that we'll preview. We'll start in the NBA. Chicago Bulls, New York Knicks. We've got the Knicks 16.5-point favorites here at MSG in this game. Total for this one around 237 and a half, 238 in some spots, depending on where you look. I'm going to give you side and total. Right now, FanDuel has 16.5 with Chicago. And yes, I'm going to make a case for this ugly road underdog. And yes, I know the Chicago Bulls are a lottery-bound team, 11-26 on the road, 29-47 overall. And not a team you want to look to back every single night. But even with the Bulls being 2-8 straight up in their last 10 games, they've actually had a profitable point spread record during that span. 6-4 against the spread their last 10 games. And in this road underdog role, they've covered against the Clippers, Oklahoma City, and San Antonio, three of the better teams they've faced during their recent road games of late. So 3 games against step-up competition as road dogs, Clippers, Thunder, Spurs. Bulls 3-0 against the spread as road underdogs in those 3 games. The Knicks are one of the more upper echelon teams that the Bulls will get to face here again tonight or on Friday night. And New York comes to this game in a very dubious scheduling spot, at least in my mind. They return home off a 4-game road trip, a road trip that didn't start well. They lost the first 3 games against Charlotte, Oklahoma City, and Houston before winning the final game of that road trip against decimated, depleted, bottom tier Memphis team to salvage 1 win on that road trip for the Knicks, 130-119. And even in that game, they didn't cover. They were 13.5-point favorites. They went 0-4 against the spread on that road trip. 0-6 against the spread their last 6 road games. In fact, home or road, the Knicks are just 2-8 against the spread in their last 10 games. They have been an overvalued commodity. They're back home for that first game after a 4-game road trip. That's typically a bet against spot for most teams. And if you look at past performances with the New York Knicks coming home off a road trip, let's go back and look earlier this season where we saw them in January return home after a 4-game road trip through Phoenix, Portland, Sacramento, and Golden State. They came back home against Phoenix and they lost, both straight up and against the spread. Didn't play well that first game home off a road trip. They went to Boston and Denver, came back home, and as a double-digit favorite, they lost to the Indiana Pacers. In March, last month, they returned home after a 5-game road trip, the New York Knicks, after playing at Denver, the Lakers, the Clippers, Utah, and Indiana. 5-game road trip. They came back home for that first game after the road trip here to Madison Square Garden. And as 14.5-point favorites against Golden State, they won by 3 by the skin of their teeth. Didn't even sniff a point spread cover, and very fortunate to even win the game straight up. So we have a Knicks team that has not been good in these spots, laying a very big number. Chicago, even with their issues and a team that's lottery bound, they have managed to be at least competitive, cover numbers on the road against some better competition. I think there's enough reasons here to want to take this boatload of points here that we're getting with the Chicago Bulls, and I'm doing just that. So Chicago plus 16.5 here in this game against the New York Knicks. That is where I'm going to go here in this matchup between the Bulls and the Knicks for Friday night in NBA action. All right, let's go to the United Football League, UFL. Week 2 kicks off Friday night. This is a game that you can watch on Fox. It is the DC Defenders and the Columbus Aviators. We've got DC 2.5-point road favorites in this game, 40.5 the total, depending on which book you're looking at right now. When I look at this game coming into it, the DC Defenders, last year's champions, looked like on paper they were going to have a pretty good team again. I liked coming into the season the fact that they had the same starting quarterback, Jordan Ta'amu, same coaching staff, both coordinators and the head coach, same as last year. But it was alarming to see the way they played in their first game against the St. Louis Battlehawks. Now, St. Louis is not an easy team to play, and especially in St. Louis, they have a good home field edge, but it was not good for DC. Their offensive line was a disaster in that game. They allowed a ton of sacks, a ton of quarterback pressure on Ta'amu, who really never felt comfortable at any point in that game. I don't think their defense played that bad. But again, Brandon Silvers and the St. Louis Battlehawks offense was able to have enough success in that game. Concerns about DC for all the continuity and, same, a lot of the same players back from last year, quarterback, head coach, both coordinators. It looked like the perfect setup for DC to hit the ground running and get off to a good start this season, and they couldn't have played a worse game, especially the second half. It was really ugly for DC. But I think this is a better team than they showed against St. Louis. This is a nice little bit of a buy low, bounce back spot after that bad week 1 showing. Both of these teams are actually 0-1 because Columbus lost their first game of the season last week against Orlando, and we cashed a ticket with Orlando on Beyond the Lines last week on Sunday when Orlando beat Columbus. I think for this Columbus team, it's just going to take time for them to become a really good football team. They've got a brand new first-time ever head coach in pro football, and Ted Ginn Jr. That is going to be an adjustment period, I believe, for this Columbus Aviators squad. You look at the defense. There were times that they had some issues against Orlando. The secondary, stopping the run was a big problem. So the D-line, showed in that loss to Orlando. You can run on this Columbus defense. And I think DC might be able to take advantage of that, take pressure off Ta'amu and that offensive line that struggled last week against St. Louis, run the football a bit more. And what I do like about DC is that they did sign, some offensive linemen in the preparation leading up to this game to try to bolster that unit. I think with the new faces on that O-line, not to mention, I think they're going to work overtime to make sure they shore up protection, do a better job of just, blocking, run blocking, pass protecting, just making sure that offensive line plays better than it did against St. Louis, because it was a rough day for the Defenders offensive line. I think they will play better here in this game. I still think when you measure up these two rosters, DC's the better of these two teams. And I think when you look at the coaching situation, much more UFL head coaching, proven success and experience that lies with DC compared to Columbus going into this game. So, we've seen just a trickle of money on DC because this opened DC as a 1.5-point favorite. You're now seeing them 2.5 across the board. What I will recommend for this edition of Beyond the Lines is DC Moneyline. As I often say when we talk about these short favorites, I prefer the money line rather than laying the points. That way, if it's a 1 or 2 point win in this scenario, you're still going to cash a ticket if you go the money line route with DC instead of laying the points. So my official pick here for this UFL Week 2 matchup on Friday night, we're going to take the DC Defenders on the money line, minus 135. against the Columbus Aviators. That will be your Friday night UFL Week 2 selection here on Beyond the Lines. All right, that's a wrap for this edition of the show. I'm Ian Cameron. Thanks for tuning in. Check out wizardsportspicks.com and all the great handicappers on the website. Hit the like button on the way out. Enjoy the games and good luck with your wagers on Friday night. And thanks for tuning in to the Friday, April 3rd edition of Beyond the Lines, presented by Wizard Sports Picks.